Okay, I'd like to kind of take a little bit of a different direction on the use of the other, and rather than talk about a kind of marginalised, excluded other, I'd rather try and use the concept as a functional other for the one, if you like, if you use your terminology. So what I'm going to do is discuss with you some research that I did this time last year for my master's thesis, which was on interpassivity and contemporary activism. I'll explain what I mean by interpassivity later on. But I think that resistance is a pressing arena of study in the current context because of the rise of resentment and activism following the financial crisis. In particular, I'm interested in the Occupy movement, which began in October 2011. Interestingly, from an advert in Adbusters magazine, suggesting that everyone met up at Zucotti Park with tents. But it soon went past that, and we have camps in 951 cities and 82 countries around the globe. But by the time I get there, the party is pretty much ended. Wall Street has been evicted, St Paul's, which was the flagship one in London, has been evicted, and that left me with 3 camps in London. The first one, Occupation Finsbury Square, was now the oldest camp in the world, technically, and it included about 50 or so people who spent most of the day sleeping and most of the night taking drugs. And then I went on to the second site, which was Occupy Mile End, and this, in contrast, had some of the people moving off Finsbury Square because of the kind of party atmosphere. And these were more politically minded activists who were trying to build links with local community issues. The final group, who retained the name Occupy London, were the evictees from St Paul's, who now existed, as one of my interviewees said, as a cloud above the city. These keyboard warriors that, rather than having a campsite, existed online or at protests or in cafes. I conducted 16 interviews with the final group by contacting them online, and the top 2 groups by just wandering into the site. Although they would definitely reject such a label, Occupy can be considered as an anti-capitalist movement, or at least a social democratic movement. They're reacting to the perceived injustice of bank bailouts, tax cuts for the rich, and austerity measures, as well as the rich-poor gap. While most people here would perhaps agree with their cause, I want to suggest that there may be some potential problems with the approach they took. And in particular, I'm just going to focus on one, and this is the idea of interpassivity. As we whiz over there. So, interpassivity is a term which was coined by the art theorist Robert Fowler, who used it to describe a work of art that's able to observe itself. So, for Fowler, in the past, a work of art wasn't completed until the observer saw it and interpreted it, because that's what gave the work of art its meaning. But for Fowler, what we now have is a situation where the art takes that role from the observer, and the meaning is pre-built in to the work of art. Slavoj Žižek takes the term to apply to some of his own ideas, which hopefully will illuminate it a bit better. So he talks about the Tibetan prayer wheel, where you write a prayer on a piece of paper, put it in the wheel and spin it, and then you're allowed to, in Žižek's terms, think of the most obscene thoughts, while objectively you're praying. So the wheel literally takes on the role of praying for you, allowing you to be passive in your action of praying. Žižek also uses it to describe elements of popular culture, so canned laughter. When we watch a programme which has canned laughter in it, even if we don't laugh ourselves, we somehow feel relieved or we feel happy and enjoy that programme. So for Žižek, the canned laughter is literally laughing on our behalf, literally taking on that responsibility, that injunction to enjoy the programme. But I also want to suggest that interpassivity can be useful in considering resistance in contemporary society, in particular in theorising the proliferation of commodities which express some sort of rebellion. Disney Pixar's WALL-E is a film about a dystopian future where our consumption habits have literally made the earth uninhabitable. All the humans, all suspiciously English-speaking humans, get on board a spaceship and leave the planet, leaving behind robots to clear up the mess so they might one day return. The film presents the audience with a moral. Yeah, we need to change our ways. We need to change our consumptive patterns, otherwise the whole planet is going to pot. But they carry on consuming. They carry on going out and the patterns continue. So Wall-E relieves the audience's passivity in not acting to change the current system. So how might this be problematic for social movements? If commodities are able to relieve people of the impetus to act, then it becomes difficult for activists to engage them. This is Chris, one of my interviewees. The consumeristic model is easier because you buy your t-shirt and you buy your mask, and of course you're part of it because you've got the t-shirt and you've got the mask. You didn't have to spend any time in the tent or in the mud protesting to feel like you're then part of that thing. The resistive commodities of an Occupy t-shirt or a V for Vendetta mask act on behalf of the subject, relieving them of their passivity and allowing them to continue to feel resentful of the system, but guilt-free in their lack of action. In a similar way, perhaps we can see that Occupy or occupiers themselves are being turned into a kind of resistive other who can perform the resistance on behalf of the audience. So you can see this in social media. Social media is considered quite a double-edged sword in social movements, in the fact that it can proliferate your message and it can get people involved in the cause, but it might actually result in a kind of slacktivism, in people not really getting involved in the way they could. I thought this is demonstrated well by what Neil has to say. They've decided that social media is this lightning bolt from heaven. The thing about Twitter or Facebook or Egypt and the riots is that this kind of internet technology allows people to organise better, but it doesn't supply the motivation for why they would organise in the first place. This kind of clicktivism, or the liking and following of a movement online rather than getting involved, is perfect interpassivity, because it literally relieves you of wanting to actually go out and get in a tent or get in the mud, as Chris had to say. We can also see this in the use of visual social media, such as YouTube or livestream, and perhaps we can see that Occupy is being turned into a kind of radical reality TV show. As Greg says here, it's just a little hobby horse for people who have still got their day jobs to go to work. It's their little water cooler moment. Oh, I don't watch TV. I don't watch TV. It's crap. What I do is I get involved in Occupy. Yeah, I don't watch TV. I watch the live stream of Occupy. It's Big Brother, basically, isn't it? Big Brother for people with degrees. Occupy can therefore be acting as a resistive other, interpassively performing resentment towards a system on behalf of the passive public, and allowing them to feel relieved of that inaction through their consumption of the resistance. It's just one of the potential problems inherent in contemporary social movements, but I think this has never been a more pressing issue, with the rich-poor divide becoming greater and austerity ever deeper. Resistance appears to have become a mundane, everyday activity which can easily exist alongside the very structure that it professes to want to change. And I'll end it there. Thank you.